I'm Rachel, and this is my cousin Emily. We are the 11th great-granddaughters of Rabbi Meyer Eisenstadt. He was also known as the Maharam Ash, and was born in Poland, but became the best-known rabbi of Eisenstadt.
Through another branch of our family, we have deep roots in Burgenland that go back at least 500 years. From this side of the family, we inherited our matzo ball soup tradition, and today we'll share with you our family recipe. We are joined in our cooking project with one of the newest members of our family, Sarah, who married one of our cousins.
So the wonderful thing about matzo ball soup is it's a very simple recipe: stock and matzo balls. The base of the soup is we start with chicken, carrots, onions, and celery. It's a very easy thing to make, and we just do a rough chop on all the basic ingredients to start. The carrot tops you want to leave off because they're kind of bitter, so those we can throw in the trash bowl. And obviously you want to make sure that you start with clean and washed vegetables. When you're making the recipe, you want to start with the whole chicken, so a combination of skin on, bone in, white and dark meat. I'll give each an onion, cut it fast and it won't crack. First step is rendering the chicken fat. So you get your prepped chicken, and we're going to go over to the stove and brown it. You're going to want about 50 milliliters of extra virgin olive oil in a big sturdy pot. Turn your heat on to about medium-high. Put in your olive oil. It's a good idea to start with the big pieces first. And you're going to want to put them skin side down. Alright, we'll get these started. And they'll be nice and brown in just a few minutes. We're browning away, as you can hear. And Rachel's going to show us just how dark the chicken should be. You want that skin to be nice and crispy. Make sure when you start browning the chicken that you don't crowd the pan, because then it will steam instead of brown. Right, so a couple more minutes on the other side and then we'll move on. Now we're going to move the cooked chicken pieces to a plate. The plate's going to help collect all the juices that are coming out of the chicken. We want to hold on to those. Alright, want to grab the other? Yep. Alright. That's a good one. Okay. They're nice and dark. And very heavy. Alright. Thank you. Okay, once all of your chicken is browned, we're ready to put everything in the pot. So first you're going to put all of your brown chicken pieces in the bottom of the pot. And then you're going to take your celery, carrots, and onions and just dump them in. And then pour about 2.5 to 3 liters of hot water over the whole thing. Be careful when you pour. Always pour away from you. Great. Turn the heat on to high, cover the pot. We're going to bring it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, you're going to turn off the heat and let it simmer for about 2 hours. Good morning. Where we left off yesterday was with the stock simmering. We let it simmer for several hours, but at least 2.5. We then separated out the chicken and vegetables for future use. Then we let the stock sit overnight in a refrigerator, and now we're going to separate the fat from the stock. The best tool to use to separate the fat from the stock is a slotted spoon. And there, I've removed plenty of fat for our matzo balls.
Now we'll be working on our matzo ball recipe. We only have a few simple ingredients to work with. We have 1 cup of matzo meal, 1 teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of powdered ginger, 4 farm fresh eggs, and we'll be using 2 tablespoons of our rendered chicken fat. Now we're going to start with beating the eggs. This step is very important because we want our matzo balls to be light and fluffy. Sarah will be helping me with this.
These are beautiful eggs. They came next door from a friend of the family who raises chickens. It's quite a treat to get these in America.
This could take a few minutes, and you want to make sure that your eggs are really well beaten.
Okay, so after about 4 or 5 minutes, you'll have a nice fluffy egg mixture, and you want to make sure you see lots of air bubbles and that the volume has increased.
We're going to add 2 tablespoons of the rendered chicken fat into the eggs. And Sarah's going to mix these together while I combine our dry ingredients. We have the 1 teaspoon of salt and the half teaspoon of powdered ginger. Once they're combined, we're going to gradually add them into the egg and fat mixture until they are just combined. We don't want to mix it too much because we want to maintain the air content of the mixture.
Ooh, that ginger smells good.
It's the secret ingredient.
So just until you can't see any more dry clumps of matzo.
Once our mixture looks something like this, we'll be covering it with a piece of plastic wrap or a plate and placing it in the refrigerator for 30 minutes or more. This step gives the matzo meal time to absorb the liquids in the egg mixture.
Mixture is resting in the fridge. We're going to strain out any remaining pieces of vegetables and or chicken bones from our stock. Get another big pot and a wire strainer and slowly pour to separate everything out. We'll be using this large pot to boil the water to cook the matzo balls in. And the remaining strained stock is going to be a delicious base for the soup. While the matzo ball mixture was resting, we started a pot of water, and now it's at a rolling boil, and we're ready to start making the matzo balls. Next, Emily will demonstrate how to form them. So while you're working with the dough, you want to be very careful not to touch it too much because that will compress it and take the air bubbles out. Notice Emily is making balls that are about 2 to 3 centimeters in diameter, and she's only touching the dough with her fingertips. If you don't like the stickiness, you can grease your fingers so that they don't stick. This recipe has made 24 matzo balls, which will serve 6 to 8 people. Now we're going to add them one at a time to our pot of water at a rolling boil. Be careful to not burn yourself. Now we're going to cover the matzo balls, and once the pot has returned to a boil, we'll turn it down so it doesn't boil over. These will need to cook for 40 minutes. Do not open the pot during those 40 minutes. 40 minutes have passed and our matzo balls are done. In those 40 minutes, we've reheated our stock and seasoned it with half a teaspoon of pepper and 2.5 teaspoons of salt. Now Emily's going to do the final preparations of getting the bowls ready for the matzo ball soup to go in.
Our family recipe includes the wonderful seasonal herb dill, and what we like to do is just trim the ends off and put a little bit into each bowl, just enough to give it a nice little taste, and it adds a wonderfully fresh accent to each bite of matzo ball soup.
As you can see, our matzo balls have plumped up perfectly. Now we're going to add 3 matzo balls to each plate and a ladle of soup.
They smell delicious.
Mmm. Matzo balls are traditional at Passover, but great any time of the year.
Mmm. Good job, cousin. These are delicious.
Our ancestors would be proud.
Mmm.
Claire, please. What do you think of that?
Big girl, you did
Yum.
it.